No, you can't train them when they get 17. They in high school. It's too late then. Huh? Their minds, listen, have already been shaped. Verse 7, I got to get out of here. Verse 7, in verse 7, Isaac asked Abraham, where was the lamb? He said, I see the fire, I see the wood. He said, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? And then in verse 8, Abraham responds, watch this. Abraham responded by saying, my son, God will provide himself, what? A lamb for the burnt offering. All right. What Abraham was really saying was, as long as I just obey God, as long as I just do what God told me to do. Oh my God, it's gonna get rough right through here, y'all. But listen, who is it in here who know God is gonna provide if you just do what you're supposed to do? How many of you know that listen, if you just continue to live right, if you just continue to walk up right, if you continue to just treat folk right and talk to folk right and respect folk and do what God has told you to do, how many of you know God will open up doors? Paul said, but my God shall supply all of my need. God, I feel kind of preachy in here. I dare you to look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, if you just do what God has called you to do, if I be not a man of God, if I be not a woman of God, God is going to provide for you. I want to talk to the entrepreneur, that person who got something in their spirit. God told them a long time ago that they were going to do some stuff for them. Where are you in the room? I come to let somebody know that where there's provision, God help me. I come to let somebody know that where there is vision, there is provision. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I dare you to get up early in the morning and do what God has told you to do, no matter how strange the orders may be. I feel like preaching. I made up in my mind, if God gives me strange orders, it requires strange obedience. High five your neighbor and say, neighbor, say, my strange orders require strange obedience. And I want to let somebody know, up in Love Center, the crazy the orders are, the crazy the blessings are. And I'm looking at somebody that God has told you to do some crazy stuff. High five your neighbor and say, neighbor, it does not matter how crazy it is. I made up in my mind that I'm not going to wait until the battle is over, but I'm going to shout now. I'm not going to wait until tomorrow, but I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to delay. I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to deliberate with my neighbor. One thing I like about Abraham, when God gave him the orders, he didn't go back to his best good friends and say, what do you think about this man? But the Bible says that he saddled up his ass and got up early and headed for Mount Moriah. I dare you to look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, your blessing is on the mountain, and what you gotta do, you gotta climb. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I dare you to start climbing. Go on back to school. Get your degree. Start climbing. Start climbing. Start leaving folk behind. Start climbing. I've got to get out of here. But you heard me say this before. A rocket, y'all, come with something called boosters. And once the rockets get to a certain altitude, the boosters have to come off. High five your neighbor. Say, neighbor, he was just a booster. She was just a booster. They weren't designed to go higher. They weren't designed to go where you going. They weren't designed to be what you call to be. I've got to get out of here. But look at your neighbor. Say, neighbor, just obey. If ye be willing and obedient, you shall eat from the goods of the land. Look at your neighbor. Say, I'm tired of eating bologna. I'm tired of eating cheap stuff. God want me to eat better. God want me to live better. God want me to go higher. I feel like preaching. Is there anybody here who made up in their mind that I ain't looking back down the mountain? I ain't looking back down on folks, but my eyes is unto the hills, which cometh all of my help. My help cometh from the Lord. I've got to get out of here. But can I tell y'all something? What God was really telling Abraham, he wanted to tempt him. He really wanted to know from Abraham, do you love me more than you love Isaac? Do you love the creation more than you love the Creator? I dare you to put your arms around somebody and say, neighbor, I made up in my mind. From this day forward, I'm choosing God. I love God more. I love God more than alcohol. I love God more than drugs. I love God more than that bad relationship. I love God more. Listen, the Bible says, if we would simply delight ourselves in the Lord, He shall give us the desires of our heart. In other words, the only thing we've got to do is just get into God, y'all. All we've got to do is just get into Him. I dare you to get sold out. I dare you to get sold out, people. I mean, you ain't got nothing to lose. I'm talking to some folk in here. You already done been through enough hell. You ain't got nothing else to lose. Why don't you just quit dibbling dabbing? I dare you to put both foot in. I mean, if God done this much for you and you've been dibbing and dabbing, can you imagine how much He'll do for you if you really get serious about God? I mean, look at what God has already done for you and you haven't been praying. Can you imagine what He'll do for you if you mess around and start praying? Paul said, what will separate me from the Lord? I'm not letting anything. I want to let somebody know you got too much to lose. I want somebody to know today that you got too much to lose. My second point was strange obedience, y'all.